PAVEL patches.
Okay, I have a bunch of things I could talk about, but I'm going to start out first with the type of apartments that we lived in here in Yorkville. And the first apartment, first of two railroad apartments that we lived in. And the first one was on 76th Street between 1st and 2nd, and it was owned by an Italian landlord who had connections, and every 4th of July they closed off the street and they had a tremendous fireworks display. I don't know if anybody remembers back then from that, from the old neighborhood. But anyway, at Royal Apartment, you had 4 or 5 rooms, and they were in row, and you would have to walk through every row to get to the last one. Unfortunately, the tub was in the kitchen, so you had to be very careful at times who was taking a bath. Especially, you didn't want to surprise your mom, because that was like 10 Our Fathers and 10 Hail Marys at confession. So we try to, you know, work out a schedule. And then there was we had another a railroad apartment on 2nd Avenue, and the floors were crooked there, and as a kid I would roll the marble and it would go from one side to the other, you know. But the best apartment we had was on 71st Street across from Sokol, and I got involved there at an early age, and I have a lot of friends here in the audience and here at the podium here who I know and who knew me as a kid. And I love that place. And the second place that I really enjoyed was Narodni Budova here. And as I had mentioned before, it was the center of social and cultural activities. And the gentleman down the table mentioned that there were a lot of weddings here. And when you first came in, there was a picture of a wedding party, and Pauline Turchik, now Renak, her parents are in that photograph. Pauline, why don't you give the audience a holler over there? Anyway, it just so happens she told me that the wedding was for the Reverend, the priest at St. Catherine's, St. Jean's, Father Makash, I guess. Kama. Okay, why don't you tell him? I got it wrong. Anyway, as far as, yes?
And just mention that this picture he's talking about, you can see downstairs in the restaurant, the Bohemian Spirit restaurant, right. The wall. That's the picture there.
Anyway, I want to tell you about Czech school, and there was a Czech and a Slovak school next to each other on the 2nd floor where the Czech Center is. Now you have to go up the spiral stairs. Anyway, when you entered this building, there was a master staircase. It was gorgeous. And at one time as a kid, Pernell Roberts' picture was there. Any of you remember Bonanza? Okay. He was doing a show in the theater that was mentioned. And one day, one evening, Liza Minnelli was performing here. It was the premiere. And me and a bunch of the kids from the neighborhood, we were waiting outside. And who steps out of the limo but Ed Sullivan and Judy Garland. So we were all amazed. 2 stars, right? Anyway, I attended Czech school here. We put on a play once a year. It was very well attended. We got our costumes from a gentleman who lived down the block where Finnegan's Wake is now, and his name was Mr. Sklenash. And he gave us our uniforms. And the person who put our makeup on, his name was Mr. Dobek. So I remember these names, and my brothers say, how the heck you remember those names? I don't know. Just comes back. I tell them, I don't know what I ate this morning, but I remember these names, you know. Anyway, the parades were mentioned. We had dances here, Czech school, Slovak school, dances. My brother and my father worked weddings here, so we were closely attached here. And there were 2 waiters. They had 2 restaurants downstairs, a bar where you see a bar, and to the right when you entered this building, there was a restaurant. So you had the bar with like fast food, burgers, hot dogs, klobasi or whatever on the left side, and then you had a regular restaurant on the right side. When the place fell into disarray, those 2 gentlemen opened up a restaurant called Posezeni over here on 73rd between York and First. It didn't last that long. One of the waiters there, his name was Charles Viterna. He sold his half to the other owner, Barney Vozishek, and Charles Viterna went to work at Vashata restaurant. And I knew the family from 71st Street. But I worked at Vashata restaurant as a busboy and a waiter, and I didn't have to peek from the back room to see Walter Cronkite. I actually served him one night. I missed Kim Novak by one night. I was really annoyed with that one. But there used to be a studio here, CBS studio, right on First Avenue between 75th and 76th. And Alan Funt and Candid Camera used to be filmed out of there. And occasionally you would see them in the neighborhood. Getting on to moving on from Narodní Budova, and I just want to say we had a wonderful teacher here, Czech school teacher. Her name was, and we addressed her as Pani Učitelka, Mrs. Teacher, and she was Jarmila Uhlízová. And I tell you, she was a general. She didn't take anything from anybody, and she was a wonderful educator, and thousands of children were educated in that language. And we came here every Wednesday after regular school to learn the language, grammar, history, the culture of our country. And once a month on Saturdays, we came to learn dances and songs. And on Memorial Day, after the parade went through the neighborhood, we would go to Astoria, Queens, at the beer garden. I was too young to drink back then, but we would put on our dance shows there. As far as working at the restaurant, I worked at Vashatas for about 2 or 3 years while in high school, and then I went to Ruch's, and I waitered there for about 6 or 7 years. And I met many personalities there. People enjoyed the food. And the nice thing about Ruch's, he was the first restaurant to have an outdoor garden. And boy, I tell you, in the summers and the springtime when it was warm, you were working, you were sweating. He was very busy when other restaurants were slow during that time of year. And fortunately, with working at those restaurants, I was able to finance my education. I went to NYU, and I became a teacher after that. And I want to say one other thing. George over there, wonderful guy. Not only a wonderful person, but a hell of a cook. And I enjoyed his cooking, except for one night, my first night at Vashatas. And I didn't realize it was an initiation. So usually you were fed the leftovers, which were delicious. Paishal, I loved paishal, even though it probably gave me my high cholesterol that I'm dealing with today. It was liver and hearts, it was the organs in a cream sauce. Anyway, I have to laugh because he comes up to me, he says, Pavle, I'm going to make you smazhený řízek, that's breaded cutlet. I mean, that was something you didn't get normally. So I said, oh, wow, that's great. Anyway, so I sit down at the end of the night and I'm carving and I put it in my mouth and I'm chewing on it. I said, what the heck is this? Anyway, it was breaded newspaper. That was my initiation. But I love him, and he's from my area of Prague, Strašnice, and we're still friends, even though we don't see that much of each other. But when I do see him, I enjoy his company. Thank you.
The important question, was it a Czech newspaper? Anyway, we're going to try Irenka's version of our song here. So instead of Župajda, we're going to sing Čulajda. Čulajda, čulajda, já tě mám ráda. Čulajda, čulajda, já tě miluju.